if it's okay with you. I was explaining to someone about the second paragraph in section 2 of Article 1 of the Constitution.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had a hard time explaining the fact that that paragraph is a one-term paragraph. So can you go over the information again with me about the wording and why it is that the people who are elected can only be one term in office legally?
Well, do you see where, it says upon their election?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I've got to go back into that page and read it.
It's both under the representatives and the senators.
Yes. Just give me a minute. I've got to find the page.
I used to keep a copy of the Constitution right here at my desk, and it's off away in a folder or a box or somewhere.
Okay, I've got the sentence here. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state of that state in which he shall be chosen. So can you walk me through this again?
Okay, you see where upon his election, he shall not be an inhabitant from the state where he was elected. You see that part? Focus just on those words.
Okay, who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Yes.
Okay, so now he gets elected, and as soon as he's elected and sworn into office, he can't be an inhabitant of the state where he was elected. Do you see that?
That's what I'm having a hard time with. How can I'm not able to make the jump from who shall not?
No, there's no jump. The jump is he cannot be an inhabitant once he's elected from the state. Do you understand that?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. It's so...
So as a consequence, if he can't be an inhabitant from that state, he cannot run for an election as an inhabitant from that state.
Yes.
And the same thing is said about the senators, the exact same words, okay? So, as a consequence, they had to come up with some other type of term. So years later, they came up with the term resident, okay? All congressmen still today, House and Senate, are required to have a residence in Washington, D.C. I mean, they actually have to have their own condo, their own apartment, their own home. They cannot just fly in town and stay at a different hotel for however long they want to, or sleep at their buddies, or something like that. They have to have a physical location. Now, that didn't come up for years and years and years. Nobody brought it up to their asses. So, you didn't have, up until the time they tried to fix it, you never had a lawful Congress. It was fraud.
Because I've actually set this out to Sheriff Mack, and one of his lackeys came back and said, "Oh, that's a neat theory." Fucking hell, this, it's like everyone that I've told them about this, they don't get it. Even mind you, I was having trouble explaining it, and that's why I called you.
Yeah. And you can run down, and when you look in the Constitution, you don't find the word resident, do you? Oops. That's an invented word that they use to grab everybody, back into another commercial word. So they made everybody a resident. And you can actually look up that date, and all of a sudden you go, holy shit, look at all the legislation that was fraud. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has written fraud vitiates, slices it in half, kills it. Contracts, even the most solemn treaties, on and on and on. Fraud eviscerates. It stops everything if there's fraud.
Yes.
This is pure, out-and-out fraud. They spent years sitting there. How can we fix this? Because people are talking about it,
Yeah.
And, they knew about the fraud for years, and then they enacted stuff, but they couldn't change the Constitution by an amendment, which would have been the proper thing to do if that's what they wanted to do, because then people have said, well, the whole damn thing's a fraud. Up until today, we got to start over and have a complete new Constitution.
Okay.
That's the theory of what would have happened.
So let me get this straight then, just for myself, to make sure that I've got this understood properly. A brand new newbie, like never run for office. He runs for office in the state, let's say it's Florida. Per the Constitution, he can do that, right? But the minute he becomes elected, he does not become, he's no longer an inhabitant of that state.
Right. Therefore, the next time coming around to run, he couldn't be an inhabitant. He couldn't qualify to run because he wasn't an inhabitant of that state.
Wow. Holy,
That's the one. That's the one that, the rest of the story, is very important to me. Okay? It should be up to other people. When I learned that, I called my dad up and I said, man, I got to come down and talk to you. I made a 7.5-hour drive down there, read it to him, explained it to him, and he said, I wished all my life that you had never found this. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, in my extracurricular studies outside of law school, when he was going to law school, he said he found that. And he said, you're 100% right of what you're saying, Jerry, but what can you do about it?
And your dad was...
And then I told my dad, you knew about this and you didn't do anything? I jumped on his ass. I'm not kidding you, I jumped on his ass. I said, you knew about it and you didn't do anything for all of them damn years? He said, well, what can you do? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure something out.
And your dad was the judicial investigator for the state of Florida, right?
Right. He was a judicial investigator. And there is virtually no more powerful position if you're honest in that job. My dad had a special badge. He could arrest any cop at any time in any location. He could arrest, and when I say arrest, he could order, like a county deputy guy, or a city cop, or a state cop. At any cop, he could order them to arrest him right there. My dad did not need a warrant from a judge to arrest people. Okay?
Okay.
Are you still there?
Yes, I am. I'm absorbing the information.
So that's when, and you can go back and if somebody really wants to check me out, they can go back, and I confronted Senator Connie Mack at a Lincoln Day event for the Republicans. Lincoln Day is their big Republican deal. They brought Connie Mack in. Connie Mack had been telling everybody for 2 terms that he believed in a 2-term limit. Okay? So I decided to push the issue. I brought up the Constitution. People there's like 1,500 Republicans at this meeting. This is their big deal for the year. And I get this microphone and I ask him, go right through what I'm told you. And somebody there says, oh, he's got a phony Constitution. And I said, well, you mean all these 1,500 Republicans, you ain't got a real Constitution? So they ran and got one. And this guy started to read it, and I said, no, Let Senator Mack read it. He's the lawmaker. He read it, and people thought he was going to gag and fall down and die. He quit and did not. He withdrew from running for a third term for the Senate within 2 weeks because of me.
I wish there were more people like you, Jerry, out there.
Anyway, I told my dad what I was going to do, and I did it. And I said, "Now that's all it takes, Dad. People to go out there and confront everybody." And he says, "Well, God, no, you know, I mean, he said, Jerry, not everybody's like you." He said, "Yeah, I mean, my dad knew at certain things I was, you know, I don't give a shit what somebody thinks about me. I don't give a shit about the political, the threats, all the shit like that. I don't give a shit about that stuff. Never have." You know, he couldn't believe I did it. And I did it. And I said, now I tried to talk to people. I said, pick up the Constitution and go to every damn person running for, you know, the House and the Senate and lay it on them in a public thing where there's all the cameras and the media and everybody, and handle yourself professionally. And I said, we could change this country. Well, that's when the real pressure started against me, you know. But no one wants to get up there, and you know, there's only so much one guy can do. You know what I mean? He only's got so much money. He's only got so much time, travel, everything. You need help. You know, you need 50, 100 people to sit there and say, okay, let's go get them on this issue. And those guys got to be slick to the point that they don't lose. They're cool. They have to pick the right meeting. You know what I mean? Everything.
Yes.
To have at them and go.
One thing I want to ask you.
Yeah, it's right there.
Right, then do you believe that the founders drafted that particular sentence especially the way they did it?
Well, the founders did not draft anything. All that story about all the founders getting together and working on and hammering out what the Constitution should say and all that's a complete fabrication. I have found, and I have them somewhere, the U.S. Supreme Court cases that specifically state that the founders were presented with a copy of the Constitution. And only at that time was any debate brought up. And none of the changes of the debate, they all said, well, who drew this up? They said, well, we all worked on this, you know, these guys. No, they didn't work on it one bit. The whole story of the founders hammered this out and negotiated this and did this and all that, that's all horse manure. Benjamin Franklin wrote the basic outline, spent years with the King of England, traveled back and forth to the King of France and Germany and Sweden and Italy and so forth. And then finally he went to the King of England, then he went on another trip, and he went back, you know, and then he goes on down to see the Pope. And then after he goes to see the Pope, he comes on back up to England, stays there for about a month or two, you know, to get the King to sign it and understand everything, comes back, walks into the founders meeting. Here you go. Signed, sealed, and fucking delivered. Pope signed off on it. Franklin had to go back around to some of the other kings and say, well, we changed this part here and you need to know about it and this, that, and the other. And of course, all the kings had to do exactly what the Pope does, just like they do now. And that's the true history of the Constitution of the United States. It's in the U.S. Supreme Court, it says. And the founders were presented with a Constitution. It doesn't say that they worked on it for weeks or days or hours. They were presented with a copy.
Could you just repeat that again? The inhabitancy thing.
When someone is an inhabitant, they are not commercial. Okay?
Okay.
And they had to commercialize the individuals, the inhabitants, into a commercial entity. So the government would be able to pass all these laws on them. And for a long number of years after the Constitution was written, the federal laws had no effect on anybody that was not commercial in some form. The vast majority of people were not commercial. They were inhabitants. So they had to find a way to get the people sucked into becoming a commercial entity, a resident.
Okay.
And that's, the inhabitancy, just really grabbed their butts. They didn't realize what they had written until it was already out and published, and then they said, oh crap, what are we going to do? And one of the interesting things is go back in history and see if certain words, like the word resident, see when it was invented. Whoops, we got these dictionaries, and that word doesn't occur up until when? Whoops. It's always nice to make up a new word, you know what I'm saying, Chris?
Yes.
That covers all your sins. Oh, that's a new word. We just invented it for the lawyers and the courts and the law writers.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what the new word is, so they say, yeah, I'll be one of them if you say that's what I should do. Don't know nothing. They sign all these things to say resident.
Right, okay.
And once you say you're a resident, then you've agreed to the contract.
Right.
There's only, 100,000 pages of it.
Yep. My battery is running down, so I'm going to stop the recording right now.